Today we have a special guest. We have Wes, a BDR at Turf Tank. In this conversation, what you will going to learn is exactly from the trenches, from someone that was in my training program, what he learned, how good he became, and what are the strategies, frameworks, and methodologies that we apply together, and how he started getting results after putting them into practice. This is not another scripted case study or success story. These are real conversations, and I will ask all the questions that I would ask any BDR, SDR, AE, or seller out there before jumping into a training and after the training, because one thing is you hearing it from me, the results that you might get, but another completely different is hearing it from the specific personas that went through the training program. So without further ado, you will learn all the strategies and methodologies that we apply together. Let's jump into it. Wes, thank you very much for joining me. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of what we will do together. We've been training, we've been working together for quite a while right now, but I want your experience. I want your insights, your feelings, your emotions. How did you feel? What are the things that we did together? So before jumping into the actual meat and the sauce, please introduce yourself. In which company are you working? For how long? A little bit about what you do.
Sure. So my name is Wes. I'm 27 years old. I work for the company Turf Tank, and here I have the role of business development representative.
BDR.
BDR, yeah, in sales terms, which basically means is we have some guys who are performing demos. Turf Tank is a robotic company, so it's very important that people see what we do and what the robot can do. We have people performing demos, and it's my job to do a lot of outbound, a lot of inbound, but the main focus of the job is to make sure that the week is full of demos which can be performed. I'm doing that for the Dutch market. I'm from the Netherlands. So I started Turf Tank in September, which was a great time to start because we started training, I think it was in October.
Yeah, 1 month after that. So yeah.
I'm just all like brainwashed by Alan's sales strategies, and now I'm ready to roll, and everything's going quite well.
That's awesome, man. So it's been quite a while. I mean, 6 months and like this,
It went by like crazy.
So let me ask you a couple of questions. I would like to understand, sure. And again, this is just a conversation, but I would like to understand what happened throughout this training and what we did together, but from your point of view. So walk me through a little bit your typical prospecting day before we had the training. I know that, again, it was 1.5 months. Before that, you were still in the ramp-up process. But what were you doing and what were those results at the beginning? And tell me a little bit that story before we jump into the training.
Yeah, before I was really searching in my ways in what kind of salesperson am I and what can I do to find my strategy, like what's working. So I tried all different sort of stuff. I've tried like making long emails with all kind of informations, like PDF files, sending links, and then they all got straight into spam. I'm doing outbound to all this different numbers. So it was kind of, I always thought the more information you give someone, the bigger the chance is they will sell or they will buy from you because they know everything. And I was just like going bam, 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 bam. You need to know this, and this, and this. And I was just giving them so much information that they had no clue what I was selling. And I thought that would work the best, but I quickly found out that wasn't the best way to approach things.
So basically, and that's something that we all got into that trap, man. And I get the feeling like when we are selling something and when we are selling something new, we always want to, hey, there's so much things that you need to know and that you would like to know about this solution, this product, this service. So I will put them into a copy, Bible long, and I will shoot it over. And then we have the hard reality that the numbers and the results are 0 or near to 0 because whatever the scenario and the industry, it might change, but whatever the reason, they don't like it. They don't understand what we're selling. Maybe the emails are not getting through and they land in social promotion spam. And that's exactly the starting point, right? So jumping a little bit into this transformation, this transition, what changed the most in how you did your research, your understanding of cold emails, your outreach after and during the training? What was the moment that you say, hey, there are some things that I need to change, and what happened from there?
I think what changed the most is that I just started to make the prospect a little bit curious and then just leave them. And if they're curious, they come back to you like
Tell me more
about
it. Tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but what I said before, I will send you like 3 pages of information about this robot and then just leave it. But then they think, But what I do now is with a lot of social proof, I say, hey, your neighboring club is doing this and this. Could this work for you? It's just like this small, super small sentence or super small email. And I think that brings up curiosity at the prospect. And then they reply, say, all right, we want to know some information. And then you have the time to do your sales conversation and give them all that information. But because they're interested and they take the first step, they're, yeah, when you call them like an outbound, it's like, oh, this is just a salesman. Just I want to hang up as quickly as possible. But
Correct.
when you make an appointment and they call you or you call them after you make an appointment, then they made a time and they really listen to what you're saying. So I think that the first connection has changed the most, and that results in like more sales.
Okay, so I would say it would be fair to assume that basically during these trainings that we went through, and I would like
Yeah.
to get your sense, you shifted the way you research, you approach them, even using AI, because we did a lot of, I know that you love ChatGPT
Yeah. Yeah.
and the LLMs and so on, and I would like to ask you, so in a nutshell, how did your cold email, your cold calling approach change, the before and after, so to speak, as well as the research part? And if you want to
Yeah.
put the AI part into on top of it, I would like to understand, okay, this is where I was, and after the training, because of the training, this is what we did.
Yeah, what I first did is just overload them with information, and what I did now is just short, catchy emails, and they will take the second step after it. I think that's the in a short version the thing that changed the most.
Game changer, right?
Game changer. And yeah, we used AI as well a lot. To be honest, I don't use that so much anymore because I feel like that's a little bit too much work because I send like 300 emails a day.
And because you
Um,
refine your own process as well. That's the
Oh
beauty
yeah,
about
for
sales,
sure.
right?
For sure, it's a great tool to do sparring with and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
I've made this. What's your opinion about this?" And of course, we use that a lot. But the tools you also learned us is like making this prompt and say, "This is the club I'm reaching out to. Find out what their pain is or what their problem is." And I think that works really good. But it's just a little bit too much work for us now to put in the outbound. But I still use it later on in the sales process.
That's awesome. What was this is something that I always ask everyone that I'm working with or that I'm training and in elite teams. And I think that when we are talking about sales, when we are talking about conversations, when we are talking about becoming elite and developing new
Yeah,
skills, the most difficult part is unlearning something,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
because we were so used to do something in some way, and we almost believe that that's the only way and that's the best way, despite maybe the numbers are not giving us the results that we want. It's really difficult to unlearn to learn something new. So my question
Yeah.
here would be, what was the hardest habit to break there, based on the transformation and all the insights that I gave, that you say, you know what,
Uh,
I love how I do this, but you know what, I need to shift into this other form or
Yeah,
way.
I think the hardest part is still again coming back to giving information. If they just said, "Oh, we are a bit interesting," just send, and then again send an email of like 5 pages. This is all the information we have, and you need to know this about it, and it's so perfect. It's the best solution you ever heard. And then I think it gets too salesy, and especially the customers in the Netherlands, their target group is like mostly 60 to 80-year-old people. And if you get too salesy, then they're just gone. They think, oh, it's just
Yeah,
sales
they
guy.
will be
So,
blocking you.
yeah, just I'm trying to do now is just make them a little bit curious and then leave. And then just a
I
little bit
love
more
it.
curious, and then they come back.
I
That's
love it.
great.
Is there any, I'm always thinking, you know, that, well, you already know me, but I'm the framework guy, you know, like
Yeah, yeah,
strategies and frameworks and, yeah, basically templates that we can use and then adapt in each circumstance. Is there any one unique thing that you would say, I love this framework, or this is something that I didn't knew about it and I apply it in this way right now regarding cold email, cold calling, because I understand from what you're saying, cold email is a big part of your day-to-day operations. So you be shifting the way you approach people in different areas, in different regions, in different type of clients. What's that one thing that you would say, this trigger, this framework, this strategy changed the way I see cold email and I applied it this way, if any?
yeah. I think the short, the less than 75 words rule.
The golden rule, the less than
Yeah,
75 rule.
golden rule. I think
Why is
that's
that interesting and important? Because it forces yourself, or how do you apply
yeah,
it?
yeah, because it forces myself to like if it's 70 76, I can't use it anymore. It's just
Okay.
that's the rule. Yeah,
Even if it
I
is a
think that's
point
very
or
much.
a comma,
It just
it's
no,
not
not
valid.
anymore. We're done.
I
Done.
love it. Yes, I mean,
75.
there's that's a good one, man. But you're right,
Yeah,
because at some point that is the cost or the root of how
yeah,
then you create that sense of curiosity, that sense of urgency, that sense of
Mhm.
FOMO on the other side. Like, hey, I'm not going to put all the meat over the barbecue at once. I'm just going to show you something, show you the carrot, but I want you to say, hey, this is interesting. There's something here, right?
Yeah, and I think that leads to a better sales conversation later on in the process.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So we've been talking about a little bit of, okay, this is where I was. These are the things that I've been learning
Mhm.
during the training. Were the things that we did. Can you elaborate and can you tell the audience here a little bit? How was your overall experience regarding the training itself? How did you feel? Anything regarding the training itself and how it was working with me as well and working together with the team?
Yeah, it was great. It was great, to be honest. We were a very small team. I think we were five.
Yeah,
With you, it
five.
was five
Yeah,
people, and I think that worked very good because it's just all on action, right? Especially when we did role plays and stuff. It's just everybody is there, everybody is active, and I think that's the best part about the training. If you're doing stuff yourself, then you're learning. It's instead of just
exactly. You're
listening.
doing.
So that was great, and just yeah, with everybody, we just went for it,
Yeah,
and that
and
was good.
then we need to tell the people that we finally met, because basically what we
That's
all the
perfect.
trainings that we do are Zoom or Meet, but then we had the chance to have an on-site training as well a couple of weeks ago in Denmark, and that was amazing, man. So it was a
It
pleasure
was
there
great.
as
Yeah,
well. Yeah, it was
yeah.
really good.
You had a
So
great time too, right?
yeah, exactly. So all right. So I would like to go a little bit towards the end of the conversation to
Sure.
understand that what we call the after, right? I always try to
Yeah.
put this into a chronological order, like, okay, where I was point A, I wanted to become or to be in point B.
Yeah.
How did I close that gap? Training, learning new skills. So when did you realize, during the training or after the training, and you say, hey, this is working, or this might work for my industry?
I think when I started noticing was during calls. So we talked about emails a lot, but of course we always also practice calls
Correct.
way too much almost.
Yeah,
And I started to implying the power of no.
I love it. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, of course. But it's just say make them say no. Normally, we always want to say them a yes, 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 but now you make them say no and then ask a question. For example, so if I can optimize your field painting by 50%, and it would be the same cost, you would still say we're not doing it, and then say no, no, yeah, we can, right?
Exactly.
And
Okay.
that's perfect. It works very good. And another thing, what I'm implying now, what will feel like is really working is just ask them the question, okay, what do you need from me that we can do a demo or that we can make a sale? Just
So
ask them
position
if
yourself as
there's
an expert and not just a people pleaser, let's say.
yeah, for sure. Just yeah, what do you need from us? And then they will give you the answer you need
That's
to
awesome,
make
man.
the
And
sales.
that's
And
awesome.
that's
I
those are
love it.
two big things that I started changing in my calls. Which really shifted.
That's awesome. Let's go to the sauce, right? To the
Yeah,
so okay,
sure.
you started applying some strategies, and I love the power of no. I think that it's really, really powerful. It's psychologically game changer. So
Yeah.
what are those numbers, if you have to share something before and after, or at least did the quality of the conversations and prospects improve, and how, because of applying these strategies? Whatever you can share.
Yeah, for sure. So to share that, you kind of have to understand how we get the leads in. We get a lot of inbound leads, and yeah, they didn't change because those are the people who started the conversation with us, right? And the inbound leads started to drop drastically, like in January, February. Those are like
Okay.
the lowest periods for us in the business. So then we all relied on outbound. So it was just in January, February, only doing outbound, outbound, outbound. But the numbers kept the same. So you would see like a drop in the numbers because yeah, it's just no leads coming in, no inbounds. But because I was doing more outbound, it just stayed the same. So it just went on normally. So there wasn't an increase in the numbers. However, normally you would see a decrease, but now it kept the same. So
No, that's a net
compared to last
increase.
year
So
or compared to
exactly,
normal years,
that's
it
a
would be
net
way
increase.
better.
That's awesome. That's a
Especially
net
because it was
increase.
yeah,
Exactly, exactly. That would be a net increase, because
yeah,
basically you are
sure.
keeping performance even in lower pipeline, with lower pipeline, or with
Yeah.
smaller pipeline, or with a lot less inbounds that are coming in. And the idea behind the strategies that we applied and the key insight that we work in each training is, okay, how can I, while doing the same or applying the same effort without getting a burnout
Yeah,
and die, because we know that outbound is hard and selling is hard, we can get the performance going high, right? We don't need to double our efforts to double our results. We need to just work in a way that those results will consistently appear. That's awesome.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
going into the last couple of points that I always like to share, and that I always like to understand from the people that I work with, in order to share to some other guys that might be saying,
Yeah.
hey, I need to, or I want to develop more skills, or I want to upskill myself and so on. If you could go back, what would you tell to your past self right now that you are an expert in sales?
Be less friendly, I think. Just be
Okay. What does that
yeah.
mean? That's radical. It's a bold statement. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
because I think I've from like my personal I've been always a little bit too much of a people pleaser. And sales is not about pleasing people, right? It's about selling your product. So if they say no, I'm not interested, normally like one half a year ago I would just hang up the phone. But now it's just like be that like a little bit more annoying. They don't have to be your friends. You just have to sell them the product. So I think that's the advice I will give to myself
Man, that's
one
a
year.
great point. So what that would be the one change
Yeah, I
that
think.
make the biggest impact at some point?
I think that will be eventually make the biggest impact. And then of
Okay.
course you have frameworks and strategies and all that kind of stuff. Of course that's also important, but for me, I think that would be the biggest thing. Just you have to be kind of an asshole sometimes in sales, right?
Indeed, indeed. Without being disrespectful, but that's
Yeah,
the way
right.
it is.
Yeah.
That's the way it
Yeah.
is.
And
That's
then
the way it is.
I think that comes back on what you were saying earlier is you're the expert. We are the expert. So we know what we're talking about. And then when
I
you're
love
less
it.
friendly and just more direct and strict and we know what we do, then it gives you also more power and they respect you and therefore can make the sale.
Man, that's awesome. I do agree with you. I think that there are. I'm an old guy already, so I have
Yeah,
some others as well. Points that I would say that change the way I see sales
yeah,
right now, how I impact it. But that's one that is definitely that. In fact, psychologically speaking, people or prospects respects you more when you are saying no to them, when you are positioning
yeah,
yourself like, hey, if you don't care, that's not my problem. I'm not here to make you happy. I will make you happy if you buy this solution. If we align that this will give you value, right? So, and the conversation shifts at some point. So,
yeah.
last one or two questions that I have in mind. That it's from your perspective. What are your, if you have to tell younger SDRs, BDRs, sellers, as well as sales leaders out there in different companies, what would be that message that you would say to them, saying regarding sales, regarding trainings, regarding becoming better every single day for both SDRs and sales leaders in companies?
For everyone in sales. Well, all right. I think most important is that you never done learning. And that's what I figured out with when we're doing the training with you with AI. You can just always improve yourself every day a little bit better. And especially with the frameworks you shared with the AI and just sparring with them and just make your template just a little bit better and just change this and just change that. And then yeah, so you never done learning, like so to say.
Yeah, the advice would be, guys, there's always room for improvement, right?
There's
That's
always
something.
room for improvement.
Yeah,
Nobody's perfect, right?
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's something that I fight a little bit with founders and CEOs, because like, hey, these
Yeah,
guys are not calling. It's like, man, maybe you have guys that they don't want to call, but you are
yeah.
enabling them in the right way so they can not be afraid of calling or doing things in the right way. So so that's awesome, and I appreciate your all your insights, your feeling, and your open heart here. Any last words regarding the training, Alan, yourself, the team, or anything that you would like to share, or an advice for anyone out there? It's always welcome.
No, if I have need to have some last word, I think I just want to say thank you to you to change my perspective of sales and just improving myself like exponentially in a very short time.
Thank you, man. I always say the same. I appreciate the words, really, and I always say the same. That is that, and this happened early in my career. Manager or someone that is on top of you, a couple of steps ahead, can make or break
Yeah, for
your
sure.
career, right? So, and this is the exact process that I lived with a colleague of mine, that we had a manager once, and it was complicated, and he was like, maybe sales is not for me, but reality is that you have all the quality, you have all the resources, you have all the everything that you have, all the personality traits. You just need someone that will boost that and have a positive impact on that. That's why I do believe that training and learning, whatever the area of life it is, we're talking about sales and we love sales.
Yeah,
It's really important, right?
yeah, for sure.
So awesome, man. Thank you very much. Go
Thank you.
smash those numbers, kill it, and thank you for the kind words as well. If you're an SDR or a BDR watching this and you recognize yourself where Wes was before the training, the Modern Seller Lead program is where you need to begin. Every framework you heard discussed in this conversation is built out in full inside the program. Templates, playbooks, questions, libraries, the AI research workflow. The link is in the description. Everything is in there. If you're a sales leader, a VP, or a founder watching this and thinking about your team and maybe saying, hey, this is exactly what the sales motion development engagement looks like, and I want my team to be trained in this way, we go exactly into your business, we understand your buyers, and we build the system that you need, and we train your team on it specifically. The results you heard today are what they look like in practice and in real life. And basically, if you want more information, connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where we start the conversation. The link is also in the description, so feel free to reach out. I'm super happy to help. And lastly, if you enjoyed this conversation and if this conversation gave you something worth keeping, subscribe, hit the bell. Every week I put some new content that goes deep into the B2B sales, real results, real conversations, no filler, no BS. And that's all for you. So see you in the next one.